Hello, everyone. I'm John DeSciullo on WBBZ-TV, your hometown television station, with you for the next half hour for a very important program. WBBZ-TV proud to be joining the Western New York media community in spreading the message that painkillers can kill. Addiction to painkillers is becoming a problem more and more across Western New York and across the country. We're going to be airing pieces of a WNED-TV produced documentary, that's the public television station here in Western New York, that highlights some of the problems of painkiller and painkiller addiction. We're going to hear from experts, and we're going to hear from people who've shared personal stories of what painkiller addiction has meant in their lives. But first, let's look at the statistics. This yellow card that I have in my hand has been distributed around Western New York, and we hope that more of them will be distributed in our community in the coming weeks and months. Did you know that painkiller abuse is the fastest growing drug problem in the United States? In the ages between 12 and 25, 15,000 people die each year from painkiller addiction and from painkillers, and prescription pharmaceuticals were involved in 60% of overdose deaths. Those are just some of the statistics. Here are some more from that WNED documentary.
Prescription pills are floating around high schools like pencils and textbooks.
Even though you may try and get away from it, in your sleep, it will speak to you.
Every 19 minutes in this country, we lose a person to opiates.
Once known as the quiet epidemic, painkiller addiction is taking the lives of our young people.
When I was 15, that was the first time I ever tried opiates.
It was a Lortab that my friend offered me.
In my head, they were having a good time, so I was like, well, I might as well join the party.
I didn't realize what a can of worms I was opening.
Addiction affects all types of families from every corner of society. No one is immune.
You know, you don't wake up one day and you have a kid who is an addict. This sneaks into your family very quietly.
Everything that makes you you and makes you unique, it'll take it, and it doesn't care.
Some startling statistics in the stories of tragedy and hope. We're joined by an audience here in our WBBZ-TV studio. We're at the Eastern Hills Mall right next to Macy's. And we're happy that owner Phil Arno put this television studio audience area in, because of all the programs that we've done in the year and change that I've been at this television station, this is probably going to be one of the more important ones. And I'm glad we have the facility to bring the community together to share these important stories. The first story we're going to hear about is that of Michael, the son of Avi and Julie Israel, who unfortunately lost his life to painkiller addiction. We're going to talk with his brave parents right after you find out more about what happened to Michael. Take a look.
At 12 years of age, Michael was diagnosed with Crohn's, an inflammatory bowel disease. It can be incredibly painful.
As much as he wanted to be normal and fit in with the rest of the gang, he had limitations because of the disease.
When Michael turned 18 and began seeing a general practitioner, things started to change. For pain, he was prescribed opiates.
I could see Michael's personality changing. I could see him, he was...
Sorry, take your time.
He was no longer the happy, carefree young man that we knew.
We were never sure if that was the Crohn or the medicine until he came out and said on December of 2010, "Pops, I have problems." It wasn't very long for Michael. It was 6 months from the point of saying, "I'm addicted," to the point where he took his life. From December of 2010 to June 4th of 2011. June 4th at 10:05, Michael was gone.
An incredibly powerful story from Avi and Julie Israel. Some parents may have left it at that, mourned the loss of their child, and moved on with their lives. But not the case with Avi and Julie Israel. It was their mission to help others and not find painkiller addiction enter into their lives. And I want to invite and welcome Avi and Julie Israel to our set today. And the bravery that you've shown in sharing your story, to me, has been very overwhelming. I mean, Avi, when we first met here at the television station a few weeks ago, we were all in tears in the conference room as we shared your story. And I know you and your wife, Julie, have been very, very brave, but I have to believe that every time you share this story, it opens up another wound in your heart.
Yes, it does. It definitely it makes you really relive that day all over again. But you know, we don't have any other choice. You know, if we didn't get up and speak and say something, then it would be very hard to live with ourselves. When you kneel next to your son and he's bleeding and you know that you know what the outcome is going to be, that's a life-changing moment. If that doesn't move you to do anything, then I don't think anything else would. So when I was kneeling down there and holding Michael and hearing Julie screaming in the background, the thoughts that were going through my head was, this is all wrong. Michael was not supposed to die. This is wrong. Should have never happened. You know, it changes you. You have to do something.
Julie, when that moment happened, just an immense grief, and as a parent myself, I can't imagine the grief that you're going through. What did it take inside of you to stand beside Avi and say, what was that moment of epiphany to say, you know what, we are going to go to Albany and we are going to make changes and we are going to go to healthcare providers and we are going to spread this message? What did that take to bring that out of you to move forward?
Well, first of all, it's important for us to tell Michael's story for everyone to hear, because there are so many others that feel alone. And I think it's important for them to know that they're not alone. And to take this story and this message and help carry it forward. For me, it didn't take long for me to join my husband, because I've always trusted him and had faith in him. And, you know, he always knows what's best for us as a family, and this was best for us as a family and for so many others.
Talk to me about the mission to Albany, because legislation has just been enacted. Because you took this crusade and you said doctors need to take a stronger look, because in the story that we just heard, it seems to me, Avi, that the doctors were not communicating, and the medicines that your son was prescribed, the other doctors may not have known what that was about. And you took that mission to Albany. Explain the I-STOP legislation and how you've been able to move that forward.
The fact that 3 doctors prescribed Michael some deadly medications. You know, you had Lortabs, you had Xanax, and you had Cymbalta. Those are 3 very highly addictive and very depressive medication. But what I found out was that none of the doctors talked to each other. And the reason was we didn't have an up-to-date prescription monitoring system. What we had was a system that was inadequate, a system that was antique. It took a long time to get onto the system, and it was always at least 6 months behind. So the first thing was to try to fix that. So where everybody was on current time, which is real time. And the other thing that I found out was, and I tried it myself, was I could go to one pharmacy and get a controlled substance and pay cash for it, and just walk over to another pharmacy from a different chain or independent pharmacy and do the same thing and get the same medication without being stopped. So that told me that pharmacists did not communicate with each other or with the doctor. So that had to be changed. The third item that needed to be changed was obviously information to us as consumers. None of the doctors have warned Michael. Nobody said,
that this is very addictive. So we needed to educate the doctors also. And then as soon as we got together with Senator Tim Kennedy and wrote these laws, and we called them the Michael David Israel laws, it was like divine intervention. Our Attorney General Schneiderman approached us and said that could he adopt those rules, and he was going to call it iStop. And to us, it didn't make any difference what we were going to call it. We just wanted something that was safe for people.
Thank you for sharing your story, because in many ways, without you stepping forward, I don't think any of us would be here doing this particular program with this kind of a campaign launched in the Western New York community. So we applaud you for the effort that you put forth in your bravery. So thank you. When we continue here on WBBZ-TV, we'll share more stories of tragedy and hope. And when we go to break, we're going to show you the website, painkillerskill.org, and a phone number for you to call if you have something that you need answered. We have some resources to share with you. We'll be back in just a second.
There's something you need to know about prescription painkillers. They're opiates, just like heroin, strong enough to take away any pain, except the kind that comes with losing a child to painkiller addiction.
Those messages produced by the Eric Mauer Advertising Agency, and you've seen them on WBBZ-TV and all the media across Western New York, and really a profound partnership with all the media coming together to share this important message. As we continue here on WBBZ-TV with our program tonight, I wanted to add to our panel, in addition to Avi Israel, I wanted to welcome Rob Kubiak from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Western New York, and Ann Constantino, who's the president and CEO of Horizon Health Services. And Rob, why don't you explain how you and Avi got together, what that first meeting was like, and the commitment that Blue Cross Blue Shield has made to really fund this effort with the documentary and this community campaign?
Sure. When Avi came to us, it was one of those decisions where we had to make and say, we're going to do something about it. And as the region's largest and healthcare provider, we decided that we were going to fight this. And the way that we knew how to do that was to raise awareness. And that's really when the ball started rolling and getting into motion. And the decision was made that we were going to create an awareness campaign, not only to the community at large, but starting with doctors and trying to reach out to our partners to bring awareness to this issue.
And Ann, from your perspective, you've been with Horizon Health Services for a period of time. Mm-hmm. Is this issue something that has been prevalent for a long, long time, or is it brand new? Are we hearing about it for the first time, or has it been out there for years?
I would say it's been very problematic for the last 7 years. Prior to that, we didn't see this kind of problem with prescription drugs.
Rob, from Blue Cross Blue Shield's perspective as an HMO and being connected to the community, I would think this is probably one of the bigger efforts that you've put forward. What response are you getting so far with the campaign just a few weeks in?
It's been unbelievable. I think that it's a subject that really hits home to a lot of individuals. And the meetings that we've had, and also talking to our members in the community, not one day goes by where you're not talking to someone that's truly affected by this issue. And it was something that we care about the health of our community. I mean, that's part of what we do. And it was just one of those things where we knew we had to do something about it. We partnered with Horizon, with Avi, and a number of other groups, and the response that we've gotten has been phenomenal. From the website that was created, painkillerskill.org, to social media, the TV PSAs, radio PSAs, it's been quite a good response.
Avi, what was that meeting like when you went into the offices of Blue Cross and Blue Shield? Did you expect the embrace that you have received?
No, I really didn't. I really didn't know what to expect, and the response was immediately, what can we do? How can we help? And the one thing that I knew all along, from the day that Michael passed away was people need to be aware of the danger. So obviously an awareness campaign had to be done.
And from your perspective with Horizon, let's talk a little bit about the specific drugs that we're talking about. We keep talking about painkillers. What are those painkillers specifically, and what should people look for if they're watching and they have those painkillers at home? Maybe they're grandparents and they have those painkillers at home. What are we looking for?
Well, if people have unused painkillers at home, they need to dispose of them safely, and I know that you're also going to be touching on that. We're talking about Lortabs, Vicodin, Oxycontin, fentanyl, just to name a few. So really we're talking about the opiate painkiller drugs. I guess it's hard to see, and we talked about several times, in the old days, drinking, other types of drugs, you see some kind of signs immediately. It's a little more subtle with prescription painkillers, but over time what you see is a change in someone's behavior, a nodding off, lack of interest, change in friends, failure and dropping out of things. And unfortunately, as someone's addiction grows and these drugs become too expensive, then people will go to heroin, which is a less expensive and highly potent form of the drug.
Well, I'm learning a lot, and I know that the website will have more information about some of these drugs. We talked a little bit about the reaction in the community, and here in our audience we have someone that's willing to share their personal story. If we can have you stand, and if I can have your name, and you can share your personal story on painkiller addiction and how that's impacted your life. I see you're wearing a shirt in honor of someone.
I wear the shirt in memory of my son Adam. He passed away August 26, 2011. It was in regards to, in my opinion, he was over-prescribed hydrocodone. He became addicted to it, but I was unaware of it. He was the father of 4. He left us 4 beautiful grandchildren. He was divorced, and he didn't need this to happen. Had we been more educated in this field, he'd be with me today. I had no idea that he was addicted. He just never showed signs of it. On occasion, I thought maybe he had one too many to drink. I never thought pills were a problem. And when I did find out, it was too late.
What I'm hearing is that there was no connectivity between what was happening with these medicines and the impact it was having in Adam's life. Do you see that, Ann, as people come to Horizon Health Services?
We see that a lot, and this is also a very rapid addiction many times. So when people start using these drugs, and I think this is what happens with young people, they feel that euphoria, they want more, and it happens very quickly, and it's like falling off a cliff type of addiction. And the amount of drugs that they're using, very dangerous, highly lethal, potential for overdose is very high.
This is Lynn Bader from WNED-TV. We have in the audience the producer of the WNED documentary.
No, I kind of agree with what Avi said earlier. It was divine intervention. That we had an opportunity at WNED to partner with a really great facility in terms of Horizon Health Services. They put us in contact and gave me access to go to groups, to meet these people. I met so many individuals with so many, the stories all started differently, but they all ended the same. And that's basically what we saw. Young people, people in their 20s, 30s. Our program focuses on the youth. And I think that our youth struggle with this because they truly don't know what these medications can do to you.
And we're going to meet some of those folks a little bit later in our program here today. And I wanted to introduce you to Vicki. Vicki, you've been involved with addiction and counseling and family services with Horizon Village now, and you are in the documentary. And I found what you said was pretty profound and to the point. And you have an interesting take on what happens to people, like in the story we just heard and in Avi's story about the individual.
Yes. I commend Avi and his wife for what they're doing and the move that they made. I said it earlier that they may have lost one son, but they're saving many. I see many families that come into Horizon Village not knowing about addiction and the route it takes and how it eventually takes over the person and they become someone different. So part of my assignment and the family team at Horizon Village is to educate families about addiction, about the difference between the addicted self and the authentic self.
And you mentioned you had an interesting word about dictator. Talk about that.
I said that addiction, the Latin term means dictator, and the dictator, I tell people many times that you have heard about dictators throughout history, but what you don't know is everybody who worked for the dictator didn't necessarily want to, but they had to in order to stay alive. And this is the same way that the addiction takes over the person. It becomes the dictator, and people do what they must do in order to stay alive.
It's incredibly powerful, and we'll have more stories of tragedy and hope as we continue here on WBBZ-TV when we return. Welcome back to WBBZ-TV, Stories of Tragedy and Hope. Captain Mike Licata from the Erie County Sheriff's Office is here. You saw that website for drop boxes, NewYorkDropBoxes.org, because proper disposal of these prescription medicines is key. And Captain Licata, show us the box that you have, what it's all about, where people can go to properly dispose of their prescription meds.
We were aware that twice a year wasn't enough just to do drops with the DEA. So the sheriff was approached last year by the Department of Health, the New York State Department of Health, to make a decision to put drop boxes throughout Erie County. So we started a pilot program in August with 11 drop boxes in various places. We have them in multiple colleges, ECC North, South, and City. We have them in a lot of towns, Grand Island, Colden, Alma, Springville, and other various places throughout Erie County. We have them at a couple other college campuses, Canisius and Medaille. And we're also, next week, we're going to put 4 additional ones at Erie County Medical Center. We've only been in this a short time. Since August, we've collected over 300 pounds of drugs and over 1,700 pounds of needles. We have a deputy assigned from our evidence unit that will go out and collect the narcotics or the drugs. He takes them, puts in evidence, weighs them, and then twice a year he'll dispose them when they have the drug drops. I go out on a weekly basis and empty all the needles and sharps, and I take those to either Erie County Medical Center or the Department of Health or destroyed.
We talked about the documentary early on, and thank you, Captain Licata, for showing us that. The WNED-produced documentary that you've been seeing clips of throughout our program here on WBBZ-TV has featured individuals, and two of those people are here. Colleen, welcome to WBBZ. Share your story and your tragedy and hope.
Well, actually, mine's more a story of hope. My son went through Horizon Village for treatment. He's been actively working his treatment program now for about 2 years. He continued on from there into a halfway house supportive living and has been continuing his journey. He's doing very well. There are bumps in the road, though. I want people to be well aware of that. This is not a quick fix. It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of work for both the person who's struggling and the family who's supporting them.
Well, we wish you good luck, and we wish Christopher good luck.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. And Ann, I want to jump in because when people reach out to you at Horizon Health Services, do parents call up and say, I think there's a problem in my household? And you know, that, I guess, continuing to spread this message of connectivity through the website and social media, but they can reach out to you too. Do you hear from parents and them seeking help?
Yeah. Actually, that's probably the thing that's changed the most is our #1 referral source is self and families. Families do call. They everything from I found a hypodermic needle, should I be concerned, to my child has changed so much, something is terribly wrong, I don't know what it is. Sometimes parents will try to control it at home by drug testing their kids, but they're really not prepared for the level of deceit and hiding that someone who's actively addicted can be participating in.
Well, another subject in the documentary is Ryan. And Ryan, you have a success story because I'm remembering the documentary, you became addicted at 12.
Yes.
And explain your story and how you've been able to cross over and move forward.
Well, it all started when I was 12 pretty much, and just with smoking pot. Simply just smoking weed. I fell in love with the feeling. I always used it as an escape, kind of away from my family life or from friends around me. I seen them doing it, so I thought, might as well join the crowd and do it. And all from starting to smoke weed from that first time, it just progressed and progressed. And slowly but surely, I started doing Loratabs and Xanax and just finding them simply in my my parents' cupboards or something. They wouldn't get rid of them. They just leave them there. My grandparents, other friends' parents. And eventually they ran out, and it led to heroin.
Wow. When we do our second half hour, I'm going to talk more about how you've been able to move forward and put that behind you, all right?
Yeah.
Because I think you'll serve as an inspiration for others, especially teens. I want to thank the panel. WBBZ is going to produce another half hour with our group that's here, and we're going to air that in the coming weeks. It's important for you to connect with people. That painkillerskill.org is the way to do that, the number that you see on the screen. I want to thank the panelists who've been here for sharing their stories. This will continue here on WBBZ. We're committed to help this cause, and we thank you for watching us here for the last half hour. We'll see you again in a few weeks with this very topic.